Okay, so let's go on to the sixth house. And the sixth house, I just picked a picture of two people kind of huddled over a table because it is the work environment, and it correlates to the sign of Virgo. So 6 to 8 p.m. 6 to 8 p.m. is associated with this aspect of the work environment. And the key thing about the sixth house is usually trained skills, special skills. This just isn't somebody who's, that anybody could do it. This isn't a job that, you know what, okay, you're out and next week you're doing the job. This is generally, and I want you to think of nurses. I want you to think of people who've gotten certification, maybe in computers, that they are specialists in their area. Usually sixth house represents, is this going to be a trained individual? And think of someone who does mammographies, a radiologist. Think of somebody who does just things that they have, maybe had to go to a 2-year school, or maybe even, I was just talking to someone, they were going to phlebotomy school, because she was going to learn how to draw blood this past week. So that's a refined skill. You just can't pull anyone in to draw blood on Monday morning. So I want you to understand the sixth house. If someone has a sun in the sixth house, and what I'm not saying, which is pretty obvious here, is any planet. And you get the more planets you have in the sixth house would suggest the more refined your skill is. Now what's interesting is, and I didn't share it with all of these, and I'll fill them in if you'd like, but the sixth house has a lot to do with the servant archetype. Servant. Now the flip side of the servant is the indentured servant. If you know someone who's been a nurse, it's really hard to leave nursing. If you know someone who's put a lot of training, spent a lot of money to become something, it's a job you generally don't walk away from. Generally you don't, because you've invested more up front, you've had more chance to consider it. But still there is this aspect that it's hard to walk away, so it's something, what am I going to do? I'm a nurse. What else am I going to do? Where else can I go to make this money? So you find yourself on some level going through periods of being indentured. So I'm saying the sun there starts that whole concept off. One thing that's really kind of fun about the sixth house, the sun and the sixth, is it brings out what I call the regular guy energy. Meaning that you don't have a lot of ego in what you do. I serve. And we can think of, well, many are maybe public employees as well, people who serve, who don't crow on. They're not the CEO, I'm not the flashy one walking and coming in with my sports car. You just serve. You show up, you serve, you do a great job, you're trained to do something particularly well, and you're just a regular guy. If I saw you on Saturday or Sunday, I might think, oh, yeah, I might not be impressed at all with what you're capable of doing. So when you see someone in the sun in the sixth house, it's the classic person that has maybe more power, maybe makes more money than what their physicality would indicate to you, or maybe how they're dressed. They might dress down a little bit because they see themselves, I'm just a regular guy with a master's degree and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So the concept is there. It's very interesting, that sixth house. There's no ego. There's not a lot of ego with the sixth house there. And we have a lot of people, of course, in healthcare business that are associated with the sixth house. And that's why I gave the answer to the nurses already, but you get around nursing homes, get around care facilities, you're going to find those beautiful people that show up and oftentimes wear, and again, let's put it this way, an unflattering uniform, right? Not one that, we got a lot of bells and whistles that you walk in and go, whoa, I'm dealing with the head person here, not like the military. Many times this is scrubs. Who looks good in scrubs, right? There's no purpose, there's no ego, so to speak, in that type of uniform. And that's oftentimes what we find when the sun comes around that sixth house. So I think I covered most of these, but let's go over them again. Serving, they act dutifully, they'll show up, right? They put their time in. I'm not saying they stay overtime. I'm not going to go there with you. I'm not going to say, oh, they're workaholics. No. Sun in the sixth house, for the most part, understands the boundaries. They're very much into the rules and what their obligations are. Very discriminating and sensitive to discrimination. Just to remember this point, or another piece of information that might help you kind of remember this. The sixth house, remember each of these houses rules organs of the body. And the 6th house comes into the digestive system. So the concept is, in the digestive system, the body is starting to what? Sort. What do we want to keep? What does the body need? What does the body don't need? So it's starting the sorting process. Sun in the 6th house, they're very good sorters. They understand the idea of sorting information out, discriminating between, right? Should we keep this or not keep this? Now I'm talking about the physical body. But they're also very good in the workplace about being very discriminating. So they immediately can be vehement. They can be very discriminating with their coworkers about who can do what, who can't do what, who's good, who's bad. But at the same token, they can have to deal with issues of being discriminated against. And it's interesting that I said, and yet this is a little complex when we think about it, the regular guy means there's no ego. We're all just here together. No, none of us is better than the other. And yet we have this idea of discrimination running at the same time. They are two counter energies that are hidden. So, interesting. And the communication skills, they can sometimes be over the top. Very good at technical knowledge. Very good at being exacting about something. They'll stop you, they'll correct you. Of course, they'll find all your typos, circle them, point them out to you. But there's the sun in the 6th house. I'm sure no one wants to volunteer as having their sun in the 6th house. Oh, Gilda. Okay, Gilda. Does it make sense a little bit?
Oh.
Totally. Okay. Okay. And more importantly, Richard who's with us going, yeah. So, okay. But great communication skills, and clearly sees the fine detail of something. I'm going to say something else about this because we're all adults here, and again, maybe I hope I didn't embarrass you on this. But the sun in the 6th house, when we get a woman with her sun in the 6th house, the mythology of Virgo, we oftentimes think of the Virgin, right? Virgo, the Virgin. Well, and it's really great what's happening in the world of astrology. A lot of very ancient texts are being translated these days over this last decade. Robert Hand, great astrologer, being at the forefront of this movement. And they've uncovered more information about the mythology, particularly of Virgo. And Virgo, particularly a Virgo woman, is associated more with a courtesan energy. Courtesan. Meaning the concept is that they are very well schooled. They understand the arts, they understand music, they understand literature, they understand big topics that are pretty impressive. But when it comes into matrimonial relationships, Virgo women oftentimes do not want to be, and again, I know this is an old term, they don't want to be owned. They're very sensitive to ownership. And so Virgo women have a tendency to hold themselves a little separate and, to be honest, a little bit above a lot of male companionship. So that's a quality that they work with. So it suggests, again, you hear what word I'm hoping you're hearing that I'm saying. Discrimination. They're highly discriminating in their partnerships on who they're going to be with. This does not flip back with a male energy, it's particularly with a woman. So anyhow, it's an interesting aspect there.